Balaam was a prophet who tried to curse the people of Israel but ended up failing. Balaam's story in the Bible is recorded in the Numbers book in the Old Testament, and he became known especially for the episode in which God opened the mouth of his donkey, and she spoke. And in this video you will understand who was Balaam according to the Bible. According to the biblical text, Balaam was the son of Beor, and lived in a senior who was by the Euphrates River. It's hard to know the correct location of this region, but some scholars believe she might be close to Erah, in which patriarch Abraham also lived. Balaam appears in the biblical narrative in a context in which the Israelites were getting important victories. They had defeated the Amorites and conquered the whole land of Arnon, and at that moment they had positioned themselves north of the territory of Moab. But when the Moabites saw that the people of Israel were numerous and victorious, they were terrified. Then Balak, who was king of Moab, went looking for Balaam, who was a man known to be a seer in that region. And according to the biblical text, the Moabites made an alliance with the Midianites to oppose Israel. Then Balak sent messengers to Balaam to ask him for help. In fact, what Balak wanted was for him to Balaam the Israelites cursed. And according to some details of the biblical text, it seems that Balaam was a renowned prophet in those lands. Because upon him King Balak said, "Because I know that whom you bless will be blessed, and whom you cursed will be cursed." And the Bible says Balaam then asked for a night to consult the Lord. And that night God told him not to curse Israel, for Israel was his blessed people. Then Balaam announced to Balak's messengers that he could not curse Israel, but Balak decided to send other messengers, promising great rewards for Balaam to curse the Israelites. And once again Balaam asked the messengers to expect a night for him to seek the message of the Lord. Then God authorized Balaam to accompany the Moabites, but on the condition that he would say only what he would send him to say. And so, the other day in the morning, Balaam stood, prepared his donkey, and left with the Moab messengers. But Balaam's heart was perverse before God. This means that Balaam left with intentions that displeased the Lord. And it was during this trip that the angel of the Lord put himself on the way to Balaam to prevent him. But the prophet Balaam could not see the angel of the Lord standing in his way. However, her donkey saw her and refused to continue in. Then, angry at the behavior of the donkey, the prophet Balaam beaten her 3 times. And that's when God made the donkey speak. And as soon as the donkey spoke, God also opened the eyes of Balaam. He could see the angel of the Lord with his sword in his hand. About this, the biblical text says, "And then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, which said, Balaam, who made you? Who beat me these 3 times? And Balaam said to the donkey, and the donkey said to Balaam, Has it been my custom to do so with you? And he answered, No. Then the Lord opened his eyes to Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord on the way, and his sword jaw in his hand. So he tilted his head and has gone over on his face. Speak only what the Lord commanded him to say. Then, when Balaam met with King Balak, he warned him that he could only say what the Lord put in his mouth. But 3 times, instead of a curse, Balaam had to give blessings from the Lord on the Israelites, be able to curse those whom God had not cursed. In the second prophecy, he stated that God was on the side of the Israelites, giving them the victory over the Moabite. In the third prophecy, the prophet Balaam spoke about the blessings God had planned for Israel. He also stressed that it would be damn anyone who rose for the purpose of cursing that people. And in the fourth prophecy, Balaam prophesied about the coming of a great conqueror who would come in the future and which would overwhelm the Moabites and the Edomites. And in the light of later biblical history, we know that this prophecy was fulfilled in David, and also pointed to the even greater achievements of the Messiah, of which David's reign only prefigured. And then the prophet Balaam also prophesied the fall of other nations. After prophesying over Israel, Balaam said goodbye to Balak and returned to his land. But then he appears again in the biblical narrative, pilgrimage among the Midianites. It was then that Balaam advised the Midianites to attract the people of Israel to the pagan worship of Baal Peor and prostitute themselves. And in the face of the sin of the people, which was induced by the plan of the Midianites, God poured his judgment, and the sinners were eliminated from the congregation of Israel. God also commanded Moses to afflict the Midianites because of the evento. And it was on this occasion that Balaam was killed along with the Midianites' kings. And beyond these biblical passages of the number book, Balaam is also mentioned in other Old Testament books, and even New Testament, but always negatively. This means that in the rest of the biblical history, Balaam is always remembered as a corrupt person who loved the prize of injustice, who even knowing the will of the Lord, still endeavored to make God's people stumble.